Wait till we tune in to the podcast.
My turn? I didn't know it was my turn. I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm looking at you like, Chris, what you doing next?
In the show notes.
I'm looking like, huh?
So, hey, everyone, and thank y'all for joining with us again. My name is Chris Colston. I'm here with Isaiah Tooks, Kimberly Lake, and Laria Reed, and we are Four Friends in a Book. So, if you're tuning in for the very first time, Four Friends in a Book is our monthly podcast series where we have a discussion centered around a book that we're reading together, and we come here to discuss discuss that book and any relevant or current topics that may associate with that. So somewhat like of a book review mixed with just table talk amongst friends. And so we want you guys to tune in with us each month and join us. For those of you that are already familiar with our show, please like and follow us on all social media platforms. And if you haven't already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to get those numbers up. So please do us a huge favor and help us out in that area. So today is a very special show. We doing big things on Four Friends in a Book podcast. This is only our third episode, but we got our first guest. You know, we got guests now. We doing big things, and it's none other than our very own Laria Reed, and we're reviewing her book today, Lessons from My Father. Yay! And we're gonna have a discussion. So. As Isaiah calls her, a media mogul and an author and all these other different things or whatever. So we're just going to jump right into the book. Isaiah, what was your thoughts about the book? Your just overall takeaway. What were your thoughts about it?
Well, one, I was fascinated about, the book, per se anyway, that, Laria, you and I have talked, but you just had the courage just to tell, the impact that your dad had on your life, as well as so many people lives that he actually came in contact with. And I want to talk about this one specific chapter. It's one of my favorite chapters actually in your book, chapter 7, and where you discuss entrepreneurship. He had a mentor, Pastor Jordan. And you wrote so candidly, yet honestly, about Pastor Jordan's us don't met moment. A moment where his congregation had secretly met and fired him from the position as pastor. And I like that your dad would often remind you or his kids about the importance of entrepreneurship and never relying on one source of income. And he would stress to you and your brothers that you should own, some sort of business that generated income. And what I love most about this chapter is your dad's boldness and his resilience in his business ventures. And I truly feel that when you start from nothing, you take pride in your ideal and come into fruition. And I always say that either you can throw in the towel or you can use that same towel to wipe the sweat off and keep going. So that was my overall take from, chapter 7, which was one of my favorite chapters that you did write in your book.
Oh, wow. Thanks, Isaiah.
You're welcome.
Kim, you want to go next?
Sure. For me, the book is, I'm not being biased because it's my best friend, but the book overall is really, really great. The part I love about the book is it's so practical, but that's the one thing I remember about Pastor Reed. Just he taught practical, his sermons were practical, and things you could actually use in your daily life. So this book, I would recommend it. It's easy enough for a high school person to read it, or if you're in your 60s or 70s or retired, anybody can get something from this book. So I just think that's one of the best things about the book, how practical it is for everyday life.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with all you guys. It was a very good book. This is my second or third time reading it. I just think for anyone that has a very family-oriented upbringing, it definitely resonates. It definitely speaks. I mean, just to hear the stories of growing up, hearing about Laria's father, mother, her brothers, and just that whole process, and even her, kind of being a daddy's girl and following her dad around, and just the lessons that she picked up, and now she was able to actually to put that in a book form. You can really pick up the love and just kind of see it yourself from the words that are being expressed in the book. So it was overall great. Like I said, if you grew up in a household with a close knit family, it's definitely one of those things where you can relate to, and like Kim said, it is very practical. Even the lessons. I love the fact that you started each chapter, with the scripture, but also ended with actual lessons as well, or overall takeaways that you had. So that was another, I guess, just a piece that kind of stood out to me. So Isaiah kind of already did it, but do you guys have any, I guess, particular chapters or things that kind of stood out more specifically to you, or any sections of the book? And Lorena, we're gonna come to you later, so we ain't talking to you right
I
now.
understand.
We'll get to you. But Kim, did you have anything, or even Isaiah, many other areas in the book that really stood out to you guys that you really had an impactful takeaway from?
I did. I think for me, it was a tie between two chapters, and that was thinking big and loving your family. I can relate to Pastor Reed in that way because I'm a dreamer. So I have big goals and dreams for myself, for my film career. And in that aspect, I can relate to him on that. But also, I know in the future, like, I want to have a family, a husband, and children. And I don't want to have that success in life at the expense of them. So he had that balance of putting his family first, but still pursuing his dreams and goals, but always remembering that family was the most important thing. And that's something I want to do in my life. So that was important to me and what I got the most out of the book.
Right.
Yeah, I agree. Even like I said, with that section of the book, and how Loria kind of documented, her father was a pastor, but he still put his family first. There was always time where, even though the church was important, like, nah, my family is much more important, and emphasizing the importance of that. We oftentimes get caught up into our day-to-day lives and work and things of that sort, but losing sight of your household needs to be good, and that's the most important thing. And so, yeah, that was good, Kim. Isaiah, what you got, brother?
Well, also I want to add, the stickability chapter. What your dad talked about, when you start something, you finish it, and I think that's a life lesson as in itself. Like, any venture that for myself, what I wanted to do in life, as well as, like, when I start something, I want to actually just see it through, see the process all the way through, and you get those dreams, and you get tied up in stuff, and you just want to just give up and throw in the towel. But those life lessons of the stickability just makes you want to go through and fight harder, just to see that dream come into fruition, as I spoke about earlier.
Yeah, that was a good chapter. Shout out to L. If you tuned in, shout out to L. Look, that boy stuck with that football and made it.
That's right.
All right, so look, this is a big show for us, man. We got our first guest, so we got to do something a little different. We gonna put it in the hot seat. We got a little Q&A for Ms. Loria Reed right now. Very, like I said, fitting book for this month. I mean, we're celebrating Father's Day this month, and so we're reading this book, Lessons from My Father by Loria Reed. So, Loria, let's get into how did you get to the point of even wanting to write a book, and the process? Like, how was that for you, from just concept to actually put it into implementation and getting something published? Like, what was that, your thought process, and even just going through that overall, the steps to get to that point?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank y'all for reading the book. I appreciate it. And anybody else that's watching that bought my book and read it, thank you so much. That's the first thing. The second thing is, it was kind of like one of those, how you kind of fall into something. And I started kind of jotting down things that my dad said. And he always was saying stuff. He was always teaching. He was always saying things. And Kim, we worked at the church with him, and we quote him all the time, because he would say stuff and we would just be like, whatever. And everything he said would be like dead on the money, especially after he passed away. It was like, he told us da-da-da-da-da-da-da, or he said such and such. And I would just think of all these things he would say, and I just started jotting them down. And I was like, I should write a book. Like, they had a lot of really good things that he taught me. And so he passed away in 2012, but I didn't, and I would write chapters or write down things and jot things down, but I never put it together. And it seemed like it was very emotional for me. So I would write stuff down, then I start crying. Then I'd be like, okay, I'm gonna stop. And then, a couple months later, I write down some more, and then I stop. So I did that until like 2018, maybe. 2017, I want to say. And then it was like a mad rush. Like, I got to go on and get this finished. So it was released. Was it 2018 or 2019? 2019. I'm sorry.
18.
Was it 18 or 19?
19.
19, yeah, because it was a year before the pandemic. Yeah. So 2019, I was able to get it done. By that time, I've been saying 2018, but 2019, and I was able to finish it on up. But it was one of those things where I just wanted to write down some things that I learned from him. And it ended up being like, I should share this with other people, because there's a lot of people that knew him or didn't know a lot about him or never met him. But I feel like he had a lot of good life lessons that he taught me. And I just thought it'd be cool for other people to hear about. So that's how I got there.
Did good.
You did a good job of capturing that. Who else has questions for Ms. Reed here today? Lessons from my father. We getting deep.
Well, I have a question. Lareal, you wrote where your dad was stressed to you and your brothers, just to make sure that you all marry someone with the closest upbringing to yours as possible. He will also stress that that person's last name should be equal or greater value than your last name, Reed. And if you're going to get married, do it right or don't do it at all. To me, this ties into what I would think of biblically about being equally yoked. Would you expound upon that, or what made you, wanting to write that portion of the book, or what you got from your dad once he, told you that story?
So when I would meet guys or whatever, he'd be like, "That boy, no, you got to come from a good family." And I feel like everybody's not gonna be. And he would say, "No, they don't have to be like our family, but they need to have some sense of that foundation that you have," because he counsels so many people, and he said it always went back to how you were raised. Like everything was back to how a person was raised. So even like, just say I said you did something crazy, he would say like, "Who raised you?" Like that way, and you could be 50 years old. his philosophy was, a tree can only bear what it's made with. Like you can't plant an apple tree and get peaches from it. So his thing was, the way that thing was raised, or the way that person is raised, you naturally, just like with me, and the way my thought process is with a lot of things, I'm probably not changing because I was raised in a certain way to expect certain things and to look for certain things. So he always talked about finding someone, and not necessarily with the money, because I think people think automatically, oh, they got to have money. And it's like, no, it's not about that. It's about that. Because he didn't have nothing when he met my mom. My mom was making more money than he did. She was teaching school, and he was like hustling. And I mean, he had so many jobs, as I talked about. But it's about those values and somebody that has a good core where they're moving and they're pushing toward whatever it is they feel that they're called to do and that they're gifted to do, and they're not afraid to do it. So he always talked about making sure that last name, he was like, last name needs to be equal. Like, however you were raised, you need to marry that kind of person. Or, and he would go into a lot of, I wish I could bring it back and be like, "Daddy, come and explain this a little more." But he always talked about that, about making sure that however you were raised, you should be with someone like that. Because it's tough. If, like for me, and I'll keep going, for me, if just say something happened with my mom and she needs to live with me and my husband, I don't want to have to go to my husband and have to explain that. Of course, that should be a conversation that we should have before. But I feel like his mom could come with us. My mom could come live with, we have a house big enough where she could have her own room and live there and do what she. But if you didn't come from that, where you had a close parent, or you don't understand that, and I feel like it's some conversations that I shouldn't have to have, where I'm fighting for certain things. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
So for some people, and I know some of y'all may watch and say, but that's the way I was brought up. So that's the way, that's what I expect. And so that kind of goes back to that equal or greater value than the last name Reed. That's basically what he was saying. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you for the explanation.
That's good. That's good. Look, your daddy said you need to find you a cool nerd. So,
all the time.
so
He was like, "You a nurse." I need to
but
watch.
nah,
I need
what you
somebody
said
to
is
like
very
tell
important.
something about.
Yeah, what you said is very important, even with kind of what Isaiah mentioned, the importance of having, I guess, that understanding. And if you have similar backgrounds, I don't think it's as difficult to try to convey that to your partner.
Right.
If you have
Mhm.
a similar upbringing, I just think it's a lot easier to have those conversations, and even those unspoken things, because again, if you're familiar with it, if you grew up in the same or similar structure, then it becomes natural and not as big of a stretch to kind of step into that situation. So,
Right. Right.
Ken, what you got for Miss Reed today?
My question is a little different, but say it was funny. I just had a memory of your dad even talking about relationships, because he's, when I used to have to tape him or something, and he'd be like, "Man, Kim, me and Deacon Lake mess you and Laria up, because I mean, he's been out there. They can't beat us, and y'all trying to find somebody on our level, and y'all just can't do it. I'm sorry." So that it'd be funny to talk about. But my
Yeah.
question is, if you could go back and add a story or a person in the book or a lesson, something you might have thought like, oh, if I could do it over again, I would add this. Like, do you have something you would add, or a person or a story you would add to the book?
You know, it's funny. The first thing that just came to my mind, because I didn't know what you were going to ask me, was about my grandmother being the person that kept our family together. My dad's mom, for the Reed family, she was the hosted the Reed family reunion. She started it in the 70s, where everybody came to the house, and she was the one that told my dad to keep the family together. And he was always the one making sure we always had our reunions, and we always had our da 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 da. I wish I could put in more of my grandmother, because she sacrificed a lot as a homemaker. And I know I talked about my grandfather, but my grandmother was very intricate in even forming my dad's life. Because my grandfather was very tough on my dad. He didn't understand his personality. My grandfather was very serious. My dad was like always, and everybody, I didn't get to know my grandma that well because I was young when she passed, but she was very funny. Everybody says, "Oh, Loria, you look just like her." And my dad used to tell me, "You look just like you. You look like Mama. You act like her." Because she was really humorous. She liked to have a lot of fun. And so that's one thing I wish I could have put my grandmother in more, because she had a huge impact on my father, which had a huge impact on me. So that's something I just realized.
Yeah, that's good. And even speaking about that, so things that you may have added to the book, or things you feel like you may have, I guess, if you went back and did it again, that you would have, maybe slid in there. I know we kind of talked about this earlier, but would there be a possibility of doing a part 2 to the book?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that? Have you considered that at all?
I actually have, and I was looking through, actually going back through this book, and like, what did I miss a little bit more of, or what could I do that I did not mention? Because there's a lot more I could have put in there, but I was just trying to, honestly, I was trying to get this book done, because I was like, I just feel like I got all these notes everywhere, and I'm trying to put. I mean, my brain just works so weird sometimes, and I just feel like I get pockets of stories, and then it'll go away, and then. So yeah, I still got plenty of notes that I did not put in this one that I would love to put in another one. So I believe I will do a second edition, or a part 2, or whatever I call it. But yeah, because I really did learn a lot. My dad had a lot. It was a lot he taught. He taught a lot of stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. That's good. Even with that being said, so we got our first guest on the show. And so, again, we're 4 Friends in a Book podcast. And we're talking about books, we're talking about current topics, things that are relevant today. And so it's not often we get actual authors, on our show. So could you explain to our viewers, like, because typically we're on the reading side of it, but you as an author, what was that process like for you, even, again, going from a concept to getting a book published? Like, can you give us a little backstory? You don't have to go into great detail, but just even some of the backstory behind that.
Well, Okay, so this was my first time ever writing a book. Let's start there. Ever. And I think the thing that kind of made it, I don't know, I like to read a lot. So I guess for me, the practicality is in, like, I lead small group Bible studies, been doing that like 15 years. And I enjoy teaching and stuff, but I enjoy making it where anybody can understand. So I just started, like I said, I just started jotting things down and just putting different stories together, and like, okay, that story would go here, this would go here. But it wasn't like I just wrote it out. You know how you write a paper and it's like I had to come up, and I don't think people understand, you have to come up with the topic, you got to come up with the chapter, then you got to write within those confinements, then you got to come up with what you're going to put in there. It's a lot that goes along with writing. Like it just really is. And maybe somebody can give me some tips or something. I need to go to a writing class or something. But it helps with, and I did go to school for mass communications, and I do have an associate's in journalism, so I guess maybe that helped some too. But
that good schooling came out.
Right. It's like a whole process with writing, and you know, I didn't have a ghostwriter or anything like that. I literally physically did everything. So I think that that makes a difference, because I know some people that write books and it's like, oh, well, so and so did it. You know, I talked to them and they put it together, but I didn't have that luxury. Maybe one day y'all come back and I'll be like, yeah, I had me a writer.
But that's good. Even like I said, from the perspective of, you know, this is your first book. You didn't really know how to do it, but you made it happen. So you had that again, that stickability to start something and finish it.
Yeah, it almost took me out. This book is blood, sweat, and tears. Kim knows.
Literally.
She was with look. Kim knows. She helped me out. The girl came through on a lot of stuff, but it was a lot. It was a lot of behind the scenes thing, and then you come up and it's like, oh, I wish somebody would say, you know, she just. I'd be like, look, you don't know what I went through. Church is good, and I can't imagine. I mean, my book isn't even that long, so I can't imagine like a Malcolm X like we reviewed before. Or I'm just like, I mean, you need a team, like you really do, to get these books out. I understand why people go through publishing, because it's a lot. It's a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Good. Does anybody have any other questions y'all want to answer?
Well, my question was, since you are an author now, do you have any plans for a next book or a future book?
Great segue, Kim.
Get that plug in, but
get my plug in right now. Well, actually, and even today, I'm writing a women's Bible study. I am, that's my lane, women Bible small group. So that's my thing. So I'm writing a women's Bible study. It'll be 7 to 8 weeks, or with in between, and it will be. I don't know if I should tell. Should I tell y'all what it's about, or should I wait? Should I wait, or should I?
Give a little
exclusiveness.
I'm trying to figure out. Well, yeah, okay. So it will be about overcoming anxiety, worry, because that's something that I've struggled with myself. So it'll be along the lines of, and you're never, ever cured of anything, but I do believe that God gives us principles to follow so that we don't have to live a life of stress, and we can really trust Him and know that He guides us, and give practical, once again, it's going to be very practical, things that you can do every day. I'm not a psychologist or a counselor, and I make that very plain in the book. But I will give you biblical principles on how to trust God in a lot of the situations. It's going to be good. It's going to be good. It helps me. I had to go through my own stuff. With the scriptures and everything, it's helped me already. So, because I'm getting anxiety about my own book on anxiety. So, yeah, it's going to be good.
That's good. It's going to be good. That's good. So, remember, y'all heard it here first. So, y'all definitely need to be following Four Friends in a Book podcast. And we got breaking news here. We heard about the next book, the Laria Reed. So y'all be on the lookout for that as it's coming soon.
Yeah.
So with that being said, we get to our favorite part of the show. We have in each segment, but we have 60 seconds uninterrupted. He let you talk about whatever you got on your mind, whatever on your heart. Like, we not questioning it. We not going to debate it. We just going to let you speak. And, you know, we got to go to none other than my brother, Isaiah Tukes. Look, he done got us vaccinated on the first episode. He done made us a congressman on the second episode. He done schooled us on all this stuff. I don't know what we get next, but we got 60 seconds for him to go uninterrupted, starting now. Go.
Okay, award-winning journalist Nicole Hannah-Jones, well accomplished for making international news with her work on the 1619 Project. The 1619 Project asks us to reframe what we think the founding of America is, and also challenges us to be honest that the founding of America is actually the first enslaved Africans who was actually brought to American soil in 1619. And as you might imagine, some folks have been quite upset about the truth-telling of this project. Nicole, who is an alum of the University of North Carolina, was offered a position to teach as UNC's night chair at the School of Journalism, and this will make her tenure at the university. And this whole story revolves around her becoming tenure. And when you're a professor at the highest level of an academic institution, you should be a champion on the front guard of free thinking. Tenure protects professors whose free thinking that are met with controversy to not lose their job over it. And every single past night chair who was granted this position was also granted tenure. And even though the dean of students appointed her, she was denied tenure by the board of trustees at UNC. And they're not only denying her, but they're also denying the students who will be blessed with this woman's level of journalistic experience and excellence. And they all don't have to agree with her work, but they do have to be challenged by it and allow their minds to expand. And I can't tell you how my years in college, in so many ways, has shaped my abilities to go into the world and be unafraid of intellectual curiosity and questions and truth seekings and fact findings, and just to show up in spaces with the confidence to know that I know. And this is the type of experience that college is supposed to be for a person. And that's that on that.
Woo.
All right. You spit that hot
That boy
fire.
bring the heat. He bring the heat every time.
Yes. Go, Isaiah. You better rant, boy.
Yeah, that's good. And even if y'all haven't even heard that podcast or that series, it's a good listen. It's a good read. So check that out also. So again, For Friends in the Book podcast, we giving y'all books, current events, relevant topics, and we give you these rants every episode. So just stay tuned, stay with us. So we're actually gonna segue into what we got coming up next. So Kim, tell us about our next book for next month.
Sure. Our next book, we're going into the fiction genre now. It's called An American Marriage by Tiare Jones. It's a New York Times bestseller book. It was an Oprah book club pick. Obama had it on his must-read list, so it's a really, really great book.
And make sure that you tune in with us every third Thursday at 7 p.m. So we'll be on the third Thursday next month with this great book. So make sure you listen and watch out for us.
Please like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube page, For Friends in the Book podcast. We want to reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers, and we can't do it without your help. You can also check us out on Facebook, Apple, Spotify, and Google Podcasts.
All right, y'all. So thank y'all for joining us today. Again, let's read, let's learn, let's grow, and let's have a discussion. We'll see y'all next time. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.